Should more people get the weight loss jab? That's what we're asking. Get your calls in now. The largest study of its kind has suggested that the weight loss jab could cut heart attacks, strokes and death due to heart disease by 20%. Researchers say that drugs such as Wegovy and Ozempic could be used for more than just reducing body fat, as its active ingredient reduces the risk of serious conditions in overweight and obese people, regardless of their starting weight or the amount that they have lost. The results have been described as game-changing and compared to the breakthrough discovery of statins. Currently, Wegovy is available on the NHS for people who are classed as obese and have weight-related health issues. Ozempic is currently only prescribed to treat type 2 diabetes. But would you like to see the weight loss jab more readily available? Jenny, I'll start with you.
No.
Why?
No, I don't.
Why when it seems to do so much good?
Well, when you say it does so much good, I think, first of all, we should be accountable and responsible for our health, for what we're eating, how much we're exercising. And I think everything's about a quick fix in this day and age. It's like a pill-popping, jab-busting society we live in. And sometimes we have got to be responsible and accountable for the way we are, especially when it comes to health. And also, you've got to take a look at yourself and possibly why you're overweight, and just thinking, well, it doesn't really matter why, but I can lose weight if I just do this. I'm not a fan of it. I also think, we have to do the due diligence. I think we have to wait a little bit longer and just see if there are really any side effects. What effect? I mean, I've spoken to a medic friend of mine who said it does actually make you fart. For start. Yeah, okay. There's serious wind problems.
Makes you fart, but could save your life, Crystal. I mean, you got to weigh it up.
Trap wind or death, I'm not sure. I took Ozempic for a while. I lost a couple of stone on it. I believe that what you're referring to is it's all reasonable stuff in an ideal world, but we don't live, unfortunately, in that ideal world where people are able to perhaps manage their weight in the way in which they should. And the way you've described it is how they should.
But why not?
Well, I'll tell you why not.
All right, good.
I've gone up and down in my weight all my life. I've mentioned it before. I've gained and lost about 100 stone through crash diets, up, down, yo-yo. And there's also the medical side of things, and I know we'll talk to the doctor in a minute, where when you have been overweight for a long time, you actually have many, many more fat cells than you do someone who's slimmer. So therefore your propensity to put on weight again it's much easier to do so. Now, when I took Ozempic, whenever I was going back on a diet, it would put me into that mode of feeling restricted, feeling miserable, and feeling like I'd actually want to eat more because you know that anticipation of deprivation. And when I took Ozempic, it was the closest thing to actually feeling like I could just eat normally, but just a bit less, because that desire was taken away from you. And it was the sanest I've ever been about losing weight in my life. So I think if this is what's happening as a result of people taking Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever, semaglutide is actually the ingredient in it that does that. If this has other benefits as well, it's brilliant.
Well, I just wanted to ask you two quite personal questions. First of all, how does it feel to know that actually the jab that you were taking could also have benefited you in other ways?
Absolutely brilliant. I think that's amazing. And going back to your point about testing, actually, the ingredient in it is semaglutide. That's been used in Ozempic for diabetics long-term for years. Yeah. So I would absolutely agree with your concerns if this was just a brand new thing that had just been introduced, but it has been around a while.
Also, the criticism is that once you come off these jabs, you're going to have to be on them long-term, much like statins, potentially. Once you come off them, you just pile the weight back on.
Yeah,
did you find that?
No, I've not gained the weight back.
Right.
But I think that where you have a really fair point is, and anyone who does it, I don't think if your attitude is, I'm going to take this and it's going to solve all my problems and it's going to to be amazing, then you probably will gain the weight again. I think you do need to do it in conjunction
because if you know
with...
that's always there in your back pocket, you might tend to binge eat afterwards and think, well, do you know what? It doesn't really matter because I've always got this.
Yeah, no, I think you need to know why you're overeating. You need to exercise a lot. You need to do all of those things and actually use that time when you're on it to change your attitude around food a little.
So it could be the more advanced advanced our healthcare gets, the less we take responsibility.
Yeah,
for
I
our
don't
own
think you
health
should
and
just...
our own-
Absolutely.
Okay, joining us now is GP Dr. Emeka Okorocha. Dr. Emeka, first of all, can you sum up some of the other findings that this study shows?
Yeah, so it's an interesting study because the study was conducted by the drug manufacturers for semaglutide. So you have to take that into account because obviously there may be a little bit of bias in the study, but it seems quite a large sample size, about 17,500 people over the age of 45, over 41 countries were tested to have a significant weight loss on this drug. And the good thing about this drug is there are possible advantages for reduction in cardiovascular disease, stroke, heart failure, and diabetes, regardless of how much weight you lose and your starting weight. And that, I think, because the rationale is that it could potentially have positive effects on lowering blood sugar, blood pressure, as well as potentially other effects on your blood vessels. So regardless of how much weight you're losing, they're thinking we can still reduce your risk of, severe disease.
Now, the NHS does prescribe these jabs already, but the restrictions are quite tight. Could you go over what exactly you need in order to be prescribed these things?
Yeah, well, first you'll need obviously a consultation by a weight management team. You'll be referred obviously by your GP, and often you've gone through all the steps of trying to lose the weight naturally. So diet and exercise and counseling, and you have to meet a certain criteria. So you have to be at least above a BMI of 35, unless you're part of a significant ethnic group, such as Asian or some Black Caribbean, when your BMI has to be over 32.5. Also, there are some medical conditions, such as diabetic ketoacidosis, which you can't have a history of if you're taking this drug. So I think your doctor will go through it with you, look at your medical history, look at obviously what you tried before, and then see if you're suitable to actually try and take it. So
there is quite a high threshold before you're able to be prescribed this at the moment. Do you see a future potentially, Emeka, where, GPs could be prescribing this drug for heart problems alone?
Honestly, I wouldn't want to see that personally, because I think, one, obviously we know the effects of Ozempic and Wegovy. They're both semaglutide, but they work in slightly different ways and prescribed for slightly different people. I think it's going to have added benefits, but I feel like we really should focus on the more conservative and preventative methods before actually getting to the drug. I think when we rely too much on medication, we kind of stray away. I think your colleague on the couch was saying we kind of stray away from some of the accountability factors that we should be pushing in patients before we get there. Similar to bariatric surgery, for example, which is a more permanent solution for obesity. And we know that works. However, we don't want to push people into getting gastric bands, knowing that, okay, this is going to be a definitive solution. We want to actually try and prevent getting to that level in the first place, but it is great to have that as an option.
Yeah, it does sound like a very serious surgery, though. Dr. Emeka, please stay with us. I'm going to take some calls. We're getting loads of calls on this. We're going to start with Mike from Sussex. What's your thoughts on the potential for these weight loss drugs to be offered out more freely? They're more readily available.
So I'm taking them at the moment, and I think it's fantastic. I think they should be freely available. I'm buying them privately. Because for myself, I was spending so much money on takeaways and junk food anyway that I'm actually now spending less on the jab than what I was on the takeaways.
Can I be really nosy, Mike, and ask how much you're spending on it?
Yeah, that's fine. So I've just ordered some 2 minutes ago, and it was £190.
And how long will that last?
Me 4 weeks.
4 weeks, okay, so about £200 a month there. And you were spending more on takeaways?
Yeah, I work in hospitality. 15, 16-hour days. I wanted to get home and I just ordered a takeaway.
How long?
Not cooking healthily.
I mean, how long have you been on it and how much weight have you lost?
So this is my third jab that I've just ordered. So I've yesterday took my my last jab on the 8th week, and I've lost over a stone already.
And feeling better. Why couldn't you get this on the NHS, Mike? Did you not qualify?
I didn't go to my GP about it. I probably was embarrassed, and I know I'm talking on live telly about it, but
funny that, but yes.
But yeah, I decided to go privately, but it was still a very professional service. I had to take photos of myself and answer lots of questions. And
well, part of the concern actually with the weight loss jab is that people will be abusing that system. So it's good to know that you would have to take photos.
Just ask you a question, Mike. Why Have you ever sort of got to the bottom, though, of why it was that you were choosing to have so many takeaways? And was it because you were so overweight that you felt it was so useless that you may as well have a takeaway? Because I think sometimes that's what happens.
I think I just fell into that kind of routine, really. I'm now 15 stone. I was 16.8. And I was just in that kind of routine of, it is laziness. I didn't have enough willpower to do it myself. Whereas now I am running because I feel better for myself.
Well, that's amazing, Mike. Jenny's concern is that you're going to become reliant on the jab and not take some responsibility for your own health and the food that you put in your body. Do you think that's fair, or do you think that's changing?
I could understand why people would think that, because people think the jab's the lazy way. But now that I'm taking it, I'm eating healthier and smaller and better portions, and I'm running, which I've never done, twice a week with the NHS Couch to 5K app.
Wow. Well, you're doing better than me, Mike. I'm very impressed.
I think, though, what we should say as well is, and I presume Emeka will agree, is I think really you should maybe at least speak to your GP first before you consider any of these types of things, because that's what worries me. People are just taking this responsibility into their own hands and just ordering online.
Well, that would almost be a vote for it being more freely available on the NHS, because Emeka, Jenny's absolutely right. It may be easier to get privately. So for those who could afford it, they can technically be abusing it. Whereas if we stop that being accessible that way, then people would have to go through their GP.
I think so, yeah, you make a good point, but I know we didn't get into it with Mike, but I feel like you're still going to have to go through the specific criteria, even if you want to go privately and get it. I think the private method just kind of speeds up the process. Often people can find, a bit tedious and long-winded going through their GP and then getting an appointment, getting referred to a weight management team, seeing the weight management team, going through the criteria, and then eventually getting the medication. Sometimes they almost skip the queue by going privately, but I think you're going to have to go
just
through
doing that, wouldn't
Well,
you?
yeah, even just describing it took half this part, Emeka, so I'm not surprised that lots of people can't be bothered.
Just really quickly, Mike is so interesting because so many people who are overweight, I think that they just feel like it's so useless because they've got so much to lose that they then just end up in this habit of still ordering takeaways.
Yeah.
This has been just a little boost that he needed, lost a bit, now he's running, and hopefully he'll be able to keep that up.
Mike, I would love it actually if you could call back and let us know if you do ever come off the jab, how that journey's been and whether you keep the weight off and you maintain your running. I'd love to know, so please do get back in contact with the show at a later date. Mary from London, what's your view when it comes to Ozempic being more readily available, all weight loss jabs? Wegovy too.
Yeah, I've been taking this drug for a few years because I have diabetes type 2. It might not be exactly the same injection, but it's made by the same manufacturers. And I was given it under the thing that my body doesn't make insulin, so I'm always sort of trying to get energy. As diabetes works, it's complicated, but I was told that this drug artificially did this, so your body, felt that you were going to get goodness and energy.
Yeah.
And it worked really well. What was before that, I was overweight and I was eating non-stop. My body was just saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. I'm hungry. I need some energy. I haven't got any insulin. Cut to the chase now, because this is readily available as a weight loss drug, diabetics like myself, the drug has been unavailable for months. Since the beginning of December.
Right.
I've not had access to it. I'm just about getting access now, but this has been caused, it's not just me, it's many, many, many thousands of diabetics have not had this drug. And as soon as I stopped taking it over the sort of from January, it all came back and I just constantly feel hungry and grazing. I'm not overeating, but you just feel hungry
Constantly
all the time.
Hungry. Mary,
Yeah,
that
the
sounds...
main thing is all the chemists, all the doctors are aware of this, and they've been trying their best to locate the drugs. I've even,
But if lots of people are taking it privately, then that's going to reduce supply. I just wanted to go to the doctor with that. Is this something that you've seen in the NHS, that they're struggling to get hold of these drugs? That there's a shortage now?
Yeah, unfortunately, we know when it comes to drug manufacturing, especially for something like this, which is like Wegovy's obviously past clinical trials and coming out new, the more it's going to be given, the more it's going to be prescribed privately and via the NHS, the less there's going to be. And obviously, it comes down to, money and funding and drug production. But with Ozempic, which I think Mary is describing there, obviously that one we now only prescribe on the NHS for type 2 diabetics because of how it affects the insulin resistance, which is basically what she's describing. And normally with the new Wegovy, you're only supposed to use it, NHS recommends, for up to 2 years. And then you're supposed to be weaned off it in a way that all the different tools that you've learned, via diet and exercise, you can actually keep the weight off. Unfortunately, she's in a position where she's not supposed to be weaned off the drug yet, but because of, demand and supply, she's been unfortunately unable to take it. And so she feels she's getting the symptoms that she had before she took it. And that's going to be something we're going to see, which is why I think it should only be prescribed for certain individuals under certain circumstances because of the shortage.
Got you. Dr. Emeka, just very quickly, because I do want to get to another call. Have you got any advice for Mary? Is there anything she can be doing? Because it must be dreadful to be constantly hungry like that.
Yeah, so Mary, I'm sure she would have developed hopefully some good habits in terms of controlling her diet and exercise and her eating. I'm sure she must be on some other concurrent medications as well if she's suffering from type 2 diabetes. So obviously continue taking your other medication, potentially speak to your GP and advice and see if you could do other conservative methods to try, if anything, to keep the weight off, because the way the drug works actually reduces gastric emptying. So it makes you feel fuller and gives you that element of satiety. And obviously, if you're not getting that, you're going to feel a little bit hungrier than you would have normally. And that's obviously what she's going through. So she's going to have to try her best to deal with it. If anything, try and have supplement foods or foods that aren't going to potentially put on so much weight, but make you feel a little bit fuller in the time being until she can get hold of her medication.
Just mountains of celery. Mary, it sounds really, really tough. I really hope you get hold of some Ozempic soon, if that's what you need. Keep contact with your GP. Jane from Lincolnshire, what's your thoughts on supplying these drugs more readily? We've just heard of some of the dangers. People that really need it with type 2 diabetes might struggle to get hold of the drugs then.
Yeah, I was quite shocked. Hi, panel. I would love to try this drug. I have looked at it online, but I can't afford it and I can't exercise. I am classed as obese because I'm small. I have arthritis in my knee and a bad back. So I would love to go to my doctors and be able to be prescribed it because I just can't lose this last 3.5 stone to make me my weight that I would like to be. And I can't afford to buy it. I've looked at it online and I've seen the prices to buy it, which then makes me sad for your last call, that it's not readily available for the people it is meant to be, but I would love to try it.
Jane, is there any way you could get medication for the other symptoms you face, like the pain in your back and your arthritis, in order to help you exercise a little bit on your own?
I am on pain medication, but with the arthritis and I had a tumour removed off my spine, I find it so difficult to walk at any distance. So I can't get on the floor, I can't do yoga because of my back. So I'm just quite limited to what I can do. I would love to run, I'd love to exercise, I'd love to walk my dog further, but I just physically cannot do it. I'm waiting for a knee operation. Hopefully that'll make things better.
Fingers crossed. With the waiting times with the knee operation, I mean, I can imagine that's a long wait as well.
Exactly. But I would, like I say, I would love to try it, but I just can't afford to buy it on the.
You're probably in the same boat as many people watching the show right now. All the best. Thank you very much for your call. Daniel from Leeds, what's your view when it comes to offering out the weight loss jab a little bit more readily?
Hey, panel. So I'm the same as Mike. So I'm in the same camp. I get it privately. And to be fair, it's working really well for me. I've not died yet, and I've not been farting, but it has been.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, good to know. But it has obviously helped cut down the amount of food that I'm eating and my portions. So for me, it was portion size.
Okay.
There was a lot of issues kind of with that in terms of that, and with my mental health as well. It's seriously improved that too.
Well, also,
So,
Daniel, there's a lot of science going on between the gut and the brain. So whatever maybe you're feeding your gut is helping whatever is happening up in your head. Could you not have done that without the jab, though? Could you not have said, OK, I'm buying smaller plates because I can put less food on it? Something as simple as that. Would that not have worked?
I've tried that, but it's a snacking. So for me, it's great to have a smaller plate, but then for me, it's snacking. And it's totally helped with that. And obviously I'd say doing it alongside a really good healthy gym regime, it's going to really help. I feel really sorry for Jane and Mary that was obviously
couldn't get
for
hold
Jane.
of it.
We've got Wegovy that could be through the NHS, and I'm fortunate that I can afford to buy it privately. But it's certainly helping myself and my partner who's on it as well.
But what I'm intrigued by is, like, for Daniel and his partner, is, the thought that, okay, are you actually going to stop using it? Or do you think, it's kind of like will it be an addictive thing that you will get slightly hooked on, like a go-to all the time?
Daniel, have you got a plan to come off it?
100%. So we've said that we're going to do it for 4 months, and we're going to see how we get on with it, and then we'll look to wean ourselves off of it. I think this is just to get that bit of a quick fix in terms of getting our weight down, so we can then start to bulk a little bit more in terms of at the gym.
Daniel, again, like our previous caller, would love you to keep in contact with us and let us know how that process goes coming off it and whether your appetite comes back. Thank you so much for your calls.